Might be Tuesday, but it's not Taco Tuesday. It's off the turf Tuesday. We had heavy rains earlier today. The mountain main is sloppy, and whereas last night the winter circle was dominated by horses buffered well out from the inside that either went out and dueled or stalked or swung from far back behind the pace. When it is sloppy or muddy at Mountaineer, usually it's a little bit speed favoring or else it plays fairly. So that's what I would expect for tonight. Speaking of that rain, and it came in torrents, wasn't steady all day, just periods of rain. I'm elated right now because the water I got in my basement 7 or 8 days ago after real hard rains, not in evidence at all today. Really happy. And the guy that built my house is a master builder and knows all the internal workings of a home, came to my place and told me it's probably a blockage in my drainage pipe, checked it out. And I went out and it's gushing. The water's gushing out of that drainage pipe. So I'm really happy. Hopefully water in my basement's a thing of the past. Welcome in. I am Mark Patterson. You guys probably knew that. And we are here in our dungeon to share some handicapping thoughts on the night's, is it 8 or 9 races tonight? On 2 nights. Drum roll, please. Did you guys know I'm trained as a drummer? Yeah, actually am. But I have no musical aptitude whatsoever. Can't dance, although I will attempt it after about 4 beers. And I can't sing and just have no musical talent whatsoever. But I am trained as a drummer. 8 races tonight. 8 races. The Beatles never asked me to stand in for Ringo, though. I can tell you that much. Could play a little guitar, too, back in the day. And we tried to get a half-assed group together. But the only song we could play was the Stones' Satisfaction. They could have sued us for not giving them royalties because that's the only song we ever played. But I could jam on Satisfaction, baby. I could jam on it. My brother likes the Rolling Stones as the greatest rock group of all time. For me, it's got to be the Beatles. Every morning, if you wake up and you're a Rolling Stone, and they're all still alive, right? They're 890 years old apiece. The first thought that's got to go through their minds is, we're not the Beatles. We could never be the Beatles. A lot of people like the harder edged Stones music, though. I guess my mic flipped off, and I'm getting some calls about that. Don't want to do the whole intro again. The mountain main is sloppy. We're off the turf. It ain't Taco Tuesday. It's off the turf Tuesday. Okay, and whereas the mountain main was dead rail last night, at least a little bit, maybe not quite like Wednesday, but the winter circle was dominated by horses buffered out from the inside, for sure. It was fast, whereas when it is sloppy at Mountaineer or muddy, it can be a little speed favoring, but it often plays fairly. So that's what I would expect going in tonight. Welcome in to the Dungeon. I am Mark Patterson, your host. We're going to share some thoughts on these races. Did get some rain today, but in torrents here and there, but not steady. No water in my basement. I'm overjoyed at that. Went down and checked my drainage pipe that was cleared out by the guy that built my house, and the water is just flowing through it like a faucet. So I guess that's a good sign. So I'm elated, even though it is rainy outside. First race, 1 mile, no more than 12 months. Hope you guys didn't hear me. I went through this whole litany already. $4,000 fillies and mares, woeful field. These filly and mare cheap condition routes are always just bad, just tough to wade through and slog through, and just unappealing, totally bland and unappealing. I got a trip note here, a race flow note on the monitor. Complete Asses of Speed puts focus on forward position. I think it's pretty obvious. This crew's so sluggish. I can tell you Amalfi Lady is going to be the favorite. Without even looking at the board, Amalfi Lady ran a 52 Beyer, 2 starts back, which makes her a champion compared to these horses. She was second to Kaya Song in a higher spot that was nominated in 2026. We're going back 12 months for this one. So this is an easier spot for her. And Kaya Song is won by some big margins here at Mountaineer. So much softer competition tonight. But what's really to like about her is she has been up on the lead or close to the pace, at least from time to time on her form. And that makes her unique in this field. Who else is going to set the pace? And how could she not be up really close and personal on what literally could be like an Arabian 26 opening quarter for Amalfi Lady? Now, she's got this nasty habit. Sometimes she doesn't fire at all since shipping to Mountaineer to boot. And last time she didn't fire. I'm looking and I'm seeing the 9 post and I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's the reason, because you're starting pretty close to the first turn at a mile here. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to keep checking this mic that it stays green, because that way I know you guys can hear me. And I'm thinking, okay, she's compromised, hooked wide. She was a little wide into the first turn, but not enough to excuse that 31 length drubbing. So for all I know, that was something really ominous. For all I know, she's gone awry. I can never predict when the Juan Vasquez horses are going to fire. I really can't. I'm no good at sniffing out this guy. But Amalfi Lady is about as good as I can do in here. And somebody's going to have to excuse something in the way of poor recent form or just poor overall career form, if you're going to formulate any kind of an opinion here. And mine's going to be Amalfi Lady. So we'll take the rest from the top. Eloper on the inside. Eloper, she's 2 for 41. She did perk up a couple of starts back, went second to a big dropper named Jay Rivers, who would come back to win on the Rays. So that was kind of impressive from Eloper. But as is the case with a lot of 2 for 40-something horses, it was an illusion. She likes to lose. She likes to flinch and hang at the moment of truth. And in her next one, she makes this big bid to the pre-stretch and then kind of falls apart and loses ground from there to Eloper. The Beyer was halfway representative and might put her in with a chance here. And her one dirt win, I should say, was on wet footing. So she's probably a contender, Eloper. But she really didn't have the speed to capitalize on the one post here a whole lot, I don't think. Although they're going to be going really slowly, the one post can be an advantage in situations like that at a mile. And from time to time, she has been a little bit sneaky close to the first call there, Eloper. So I think she's a shot. Number 2, up her sleeve. I'm seeing 7 turf wins. I'm seeing 1 dirt win. I don't need to see anything else from up her sleeve. Harlan's Legacy. I can remember Harlan's Legacy when she was a Team Ramjeet horse and when she first hit town. And she drew into so many closer-friendly spots that I tried to coax some run out of her with real money. I would bet on her Harlan's Legacy and finally concluded she just ain't much horse, Harlan's Legacy. Plus, she's flipped barns over from Ramjeet to John Brown. That's not supposed to be a good change in outfits. And it really hasn't been, although she has been part of the ticket in her last 3, but those last 3 were way back in December. It's really tough to win at a ride of ground with a cheap horse without benefit of prep at Mountaineer. It just doesn't happen too often. Skipping Amalfi Lady becomes a Sweet Talia, and we're going to go check the odds out now. And I think this mic flipped off on me of its own. Didn't flip me off, flipped off on me. Although I've been flipped off before a lot of times. Generally by members of the female sex. So they're coming onto the track now, and I can see where actually Eloper is 5-2 off the 4 trips at Mountaineer that resulted in 4 superfecta runs. And Amalfi Lady, who I think is destined to be the favorite here, off that start before last, and off the likelihood that she's going to be in front or very close to the pace, is 7-2 right now. Second favorite. Only one long shot in the field, and that's Foreglow, who's got no chance, at least on paper. Number 5, Sweet Talia. Got to be equal opportunity handicappers here because, man alive, you can make a case for most of these. At least the board does right now. Is number 6, Foreglow is the only long shot, and everybody else is 6-1 or lower. Sweet Talia is 6-1. She was third last time. Polyester Bride, so generic though. I see Polyester Bride, and they lose me at Polyester Bride when the Bride beats you by 5.5 lengths. You haven't run a real good race, and that was a really dull performance from Sweet Talia. You see this, and if you're thinking she's improving and coming along with 3 starts under her belt this year, then how come she's been away for, 6 weeks since her last race? Does drop down to a lower condition for this one, so maybe that's going to make a difference here. And she caught this condition since her last race because her most recent win was a year and 1 week ago. So they could have waited in the weeds for the spot with Sweet Talia, who's made $181,000. You see this pattern all the time, though. I call it the one and done. When they come here from a bigger track or any other track, it seems like, and they've never seen competition this soft, and they win in some lowly condition race, maybe struggle to do it, and then they just disappear and become part of the scenery, and they're never seen in the winner's circle again. And Sweet Talia looks a little bit like one of those horses. And on the outside, Into the Night, who's 5-1. That was a bad field. Remember that movie from the early 1960s? I never did get that big a kick out of it. My brother thinks it's hilarious, the Jonathan Winters stuff where he beats up on about 6 guys and his filling station attendant. Suit, coveralls. It's a mad world. Well, that was a bad field that Into the Night ran second in last. So when Myra Fleener beats you going 6 furlongs, you have not done a night's work, friends. I also suspect that at this stage of her career, and probably for quite some time, Into the Night likes the first 6 furlongs best, and is hardly a candidate to go out and capitalize on what figures to be like one of the slowest sets of fractions, like recorded at a mile at Mountaineer in a long time, huh? And I mean a long time. Let's check the comments. How are you guys doing tonight? Yeah, we got some comments. Welcome in. Jacob, George, Matt, David, my man Norman, a.k.a. Lyrics, Matt Harmon, Paul. Welcome, Paul. Scott, Peter Pan player. Peter thinks he was deaf because he had the mic off. That'd be a cruel joke to play, wouldn't it? You guys wouldn't know because I'm so freaking stupid that I didn't check to see if the red light was on the mic, right? You guys would know. So Andy Kirk says, I wish I could read lips. I wonder that sometimes. I really do, because when our mics would cut out on the simulcast show, and I would kind of wonder if you guys could read our lips when Michael and I were talking, you know? And you know what? We were never anything but platonic friends, McMichael and I. But man, when you spend 20 years 2 feet from somebody else, working together for 4 hours a freaking night, 5 nights a week, there are no secrets. You know everything about the other person, and I know everything about you. It's an occupational hazard. And one thing that we count on each other for, and we made this pact very early in our tenure at Mountaineer, because we can both be a little twitchy and a little egotistical, McMichael and I, and not always so easy to get along with or do a television show with. And we had our moments when we go a couple of weeks and not even talk, but we made a pact. And she's a woman of her word, and I trust her on this, and she trusts me too. And I will carry forth my part of the pact that we would never spill each other's secrets. Whatever became of our friendship, we would never divulge all the things we knew about each other. And we never have, we never will. I do wonder sometimes if I've ever been caught by lip readers when the sound went down. Good to go now with the microphone, I think. Somebody said Track Capper doesn't like the four. I never to watch the analyst at Monitor. I don't watch any analyst. And I say this all the time. I should record it. It's not personal. I got nothing against those guys. For all I know, they're fine young gentlemen and very knowledgeable and talented at that, but I wouldn't know because I don't watch them. I don't watch any analyst, though. I mute the sound because really, my opinion is the only opinion I care about on a horse race that I intend to bet on. I'm old school in that regard. So as a longtime analyst, it's a poor form for me to say I never gave a hoot what any talking head said. I think I'm going to mosey on over and maybe bet a couple of bucks on Amalfi Lady. I do think the bottom horse is a likely winner, albeit at a really short price in race number 2. Mark of Greatness. He ain't great, but I think he may be a number 2 following tonight's proceedings. I'll try and read my lips. I punched the light double with the 4 horse to the bottom horse in the second race. Very light one. Shouldn't have bet at all because I'm never right ever. Price was too short on the 4 to start with. Very questionable in the slop. And plus, I'm never right about those bad filly and mare cheap route races. I'm just never right about them. It just seems like I can never sink my teeth into it and never come up with a solid opinion that amounts to much in those races. I didn't like the winner. And the winner comes with this big swooping move, had won 7 times over the Mountain Maine. Something to be said for that. I like the barn, but the barn had another horse in there at a much shorter price, Eloper from the inside. It isn't always the case when an outfit's got 2 in there and they're not coupled. They're never coupled at Mountaineer. The longer price to the pair wins, and it was indeed Into the Night, who didn't really get traction, was creeping up on the field, but didn't really start to swoop and move powerfully until angled well out from the inside. And earlier, you saw the 1 horse get put away down closest to the rail by the 2. Then the 5 puts the 2 away, coming around the 2. So you saw a little bit of a peel-off pattern in the first race. Usually, and I mentioned this before, the first race in my opener, usually when the track is sloppy or muddy at Mountaineer, usually it's either a little bit speed favoring or it's fair. But on dry footing for the last several race cards, I think it has been anti-rail to one degree or another. So I don't know if that's going to continue tonight. I guess we'll see. Not ready to conclude such after watching just one race. Man, I hate $4,000 conditioned fillies and mares that go 2 turns. Just hate those races. Hate, hate, hate. My man Lyrics, I guess, hit the exacta, the try. Good on you, my man. You out-handicapped me for sure. No question about that. Second race was supposed to be 7.5 furlongs on the turf. This goes to a mile. So we're going to keep it at 2 turns. We're running on vastly different footing. I know how they love to get these West Virginia breds over on the grass if they can. We try to avoid riding these races all that we could to preserve the turf course. I think we might have had 1 or 2 West Virginia bred affairs on the grass going around the ground. We did do it a couple of times, but we're usually more protective of our turf course than to put horses quite this bad upon it. No turf tonight for this field. And just as you would expect, this bunch has a serious case of the slows. First order of business for me is I don't want anybody coming out of the race that Junito's boy from the inside exits where, no, I'm sorry, the race that Midnight Stroller, the 2 exits, the one where the Groom's Jewel was second and All Roads to Dennis third. I think those horses are both like 0 for 60 or 0 for 70, literally not even professional maidens, just professional non-thoroughbreds. I don't want anybody coming out of that race. That's number 1, numero uno for me. Got a couple of horses here that were on the ticket at a route and another off-turf race on July the 5th. That was not a $25,000 claimer, as this one is. That was a maiden special weight. Not that the field reeked class or anything like that. The race was wired by a lightly raced horse, Slush Fund, who went out there at really slow tempo and held on. A Team Ramajama comes out of that race. Team Ramajama, I think they wanted desperately just to see him in the pan picture and had to run a route and see an Arabian pace to do that with Team Ramajama. He's that slow, but at least recorded a buyer, so that's progress. At least was in the money at a route, so that's something, right? I like a horse coming out of the same race that ran better than Ramajama, and that's Mark of Greatness. Mark of Greatness on the outside here. Mark of Greatness, ugly set of past performances. Got all the way down to 7,500 versus fellow West Virginia bred maiden claimers and gets thumped 8 lengths worth at 4.5 furlongs. This is a horse, though, that was at least third at 7 furlongs, and that's a 2-turn trip at Charlestown, and has consistently shown speed. And the Charlestown races, even cheap claimers, are tougher than Mountaineer state-restricted races. I think that's pretty common knowledge. And Mark of Greatness at least kept a task last time, kept fighting and fighting and fighting and trying and trying and trying. And the 28 speed fig would probably win this. Mark of Greatness has the kind of speed that should put him very prominent to the pace, even from the far outside, right? If I'm straining to make a case, it's because this is not a good horse. He's just not. But I'm not sure that a few of these foes are even thoroughbreds. I'm really not. Number 7, Doom Loop. Doom Loop comes out of the same route race and was up with him for 6 furlongs. That's pretty faint praise, though, because that 6 furlongs was 17 and change to the pre-stretch call. Then he falls apart. So I guess he's a late running sprinter, but not a horse that runs much at all. This is kind of a weird marriage here. King Eddie Clouston conditions this one for Mike Baird's dad, John Baird, who was a master horseman. Just kind of a strange thing there. They run this horse in Eddie Clouston's name for whatever is the trainer. Usually when John pops up with a horse in the race, Mike's got another horse in there, but that is not the case this time, correct? It is not. So Clouston training for John Baird. Remember John Baird's Phenador, who held the track record at 5 furlongs here and might still hold it. Held it for a long time. Who's the other horse he had? Bessis Donaldo, that won all those races and was so fast. John Baird was a superior horseman. Brother of Dale Baird. That's the family lineage there. It all starts to sound a little biblical. I don't like Doom Loop, though. I really don't. This is bizarre. Dennis Cluley jumped in and claimed Okata last time? Based on what? Okada had been to the post 3 times, twice against seriously slow West Virginia bred fields, and lost those 3 races by like 38 total lengths. And then Goody gets claimed at 10-1 and loses that one by 14. I guess with a mind for a makeover. First time Lasix and blinkers here. And we're going to go around a ground. Must have been claimed to go 2 turns. He must have liked the pedigree. What else could he possibly like about Okata? This is just bizarre. Just strange. And it's moves like this that compel some fellow trainers to nickname Dennis Cluley Dennis Clueless, which he's not. I sing his praises all the time because, man, does he get run from a thoroughbred racehorse. But this is just inexplicable, this claim. I guess we'll see if he had something up his sleeve here with Okada. Wow. I'm not surprised if the 2 flashes some speed. I don't want anybody out of that. The Groom's Jewel / All Roads to Dennis field. Not going to do that, though. Midnight Stroller, should be out there for a ways and was a big part of the pace in front at one call going a mile, but then gets tired there. And that was for $4,000. Ran 6th and only beat 2 of them. Did Midnight Stroller. I can keep talking forever, but I can't say any good things about these horses. I just can't. And they're on the track at 0 minutes to post, and Mark of Greatness is 8-5. And I would not be surprised to see that price go lower. Public's scared to throw anybody out here because nobody's double odds up there. Not even Team Mischievous, who's run twice, has beaten nobody, and lost them by like 50 total lengths. By Dark Kestrel. That's the Lou Roberto sire. Dark Kestrel. Who I think they won a stakes with, right? At Philly Park. Horse with a lot of speed, Dark Kestrel. Man alive. All you got to do is look and see that horse. It's single odds on the board, and you know all you need to know about this field. Not an inspiring card looking ahead either, kids. Not at all. Really offbeat ratings handicap tonight. You guys know I've been a critic of the ratings handicap system. And posted a video on it. I've got video content. And I've got some ideas about some other things I want to do for video content. Some of it, are you sitting down out there? Not even horse racing related. I do have some horse racing related videos planned. Other than the race by race. I'll break it down, full dress analysis thing, which is my specialty. And the whole reason that I embarked on this YouTube mission. And then I've got the Vetseless Fixation video up, and also the Einstein Now Writes Race Conditions, which is kind of an indictment of the Equibase horse ratings formula, algorithm. And I'm thinking about some other content that's non-horse racing related. And I'm going to float the idea with you guys a little bit later. And please do not laugh me out of my own dungeon when I do this. Please don't, please. Can you not laugh at me when I tell you a plan I have for a series of upcoming videos? Non-horse racing videos? Or with those even thoroughbreds guys, as Team Ramjeet hits them with a Rama, and then they come with a Jamma, and circles around the field, the wind it pulling away as that lead pack seemed to be bumping back and forth. And that's the thing about West Virginia bred maidens. They're not only super slow, but they often run greenly even after they acquire some experience. And they're notoriously bad at the gate, too. That's kind of the story behind the scenes amongst the gate crews. They hate to look at the program and see a West Virginia bred maiden race because they're all a bunch of orangutans at the gate. And they ran like it there, too. Ran very greenly, some of those horses. The bottom horse ran very slowly. Good Lord, what was up with that runner? His Team Rama Jamma took a lot of late money there, and these paid only $32. And Team Rama and Team Jamma ended up at 2-1 co-favored with the outside horse, which is a little bit surprising to me. Woeful lack of stamina in that field. So I guess Team Rama Jamma has found his true calling at a distance of ground. Hopefully he can find another field slow enough for him to make further impact, although I'd have to see it. Happy birthday to my man Todd McCullough. And I mentioned in my own posting here in the dungeon that Todd's kind of a ringer here. He has been a friend of mine for, what is it, Todd, 45 years? We've known each other. Ever since you and my brother went to New York to take jobs for Johnny Campa, that was their big adventure. Yeah, him and my brother were both working for Dale Baird, the Wizard of Waterford, the legendary Dale Baird, who held the record for most thoroughbred wins, like 10,000 forever, 10 or 11,000 for a long time before it was finally broken. And he was the man, for sure, for decades here. And my brother and Todd both worshipped the Wizard of Waterford and both worked for him, but decided to go to New York and try and make their fortunes on the mighty Belmont backside after Johnny Campo came here to run a horse named Johnny Dance in the West Virginia Derby. And my brother had the privilege, and he was all pumped about this, of running that horse to the paddock. And he and Todd kind of hooked on with Campo and decided to go and work for Campo in New York. They got there. They weren't digging what they saw, and they hightailed it home. I think about 2 minutes after the first groom pulled the switchblade knife on them in the shed row or the rec hall or wherever. And the two Newell boys decided, well, maybe the bright lights in big city ain't for us, at least at this stage. Hope you don't mind me telling that story, Todd. Third race was supposed to be turf 7/8, make it 6 furlongs on the Sloppy Mountain, Maine. Another winner swings around him there, by the way. So your first two winners came from well back and both swung out around. This is an Ever 2 Life for 15,000 claiming. I saw Juan Pablo Silva coming out of the grocery store earlier today. We didn't have a lot of time to talk. I would have quizzed him and gotten some inside scoop about his barn and some stuff like that and what riders he plans to use. He did divulge to me that his son, his youngest son, is going to take to the saddle real soon. Has been okay to ride as a 10 bug. One's kind of a notorious character throughout horse racing, but I like him. He's very personable. He's a really nice guy. And I'm not going to knock him too much. When he tipped my son $100 when Little Bear was working at Vickers concession stand in the grandstand about a year and a half ago. Juan goes up, gets an ice cream, and hands my kid a Hyundai, you know? So at that point, you know, although I'm pretty objective about Juan and his horses. And Juan is not universally liked. I like to tell this story because it's true. It's an absolutely true story. Juan's got a lot of detractors, and he's got a pretty big fan club too, way out west. But anyways, I'm in Jim Colvin, director of racing's office, about a year ago, a year and a couple of months before I left Mountaineer. And Eddie Clouston and Jay Bernardini and Juan Pablo Silva are all in Jim's office at the same time, not called on the carpet. They're just standing there shooting the breeze. And these are not three guys. They're going to pal around and have a cookout together. Not happening, if you get my drift there. So I said to these guys, and I'm kind of screwing with them, but I'm being honest too. I said, Jay, when you win a race, my fans are elated. They're happy. Mountaineer fans want to see all good things come to you, Jay. Jay's very personable and likable. Now, Eddie's kind of taciturn and a little bit withdrawn. and not the most outwardly friendly guy in the world. I said, Eddie, when you win a race, they don't really give a shit either way. They don't say down with Eddie, but they're not elated either. I said, no, Juan, when you win a race, and this brought the house down, my fans expect me to walk into the winner's circle and make a freaking citizen's arrest. And there's a lot of truth in that story, too. So Juan's got the one horse in here, One Step Beyond, name for the old anthology horror series. I don't know. One Step Beyond with all these Southern California speed, including a Santa Anita win, and then gets off synthetics, gets off turf. One start experiment on each of those alternative surfaces didn't work out, gets back to dirt and duels throughout with a horse named Rhodes, who should have been like 3-5, and they're coming in for Charlie Williams from Thistledown with some cred. Wasn't a fast race in terms of final time, but Rhodes had a hard time out dueling One Step Beyond, and Rhodes had the cred on paper. So One Step Beyond, it's his race to lose from down along the inside with his early foot as an allowance dropper. I will say a couple of things. You got to be a little bit concerned about the inside part of the track. You have to, from what we've seen so far tonight and what we watched last night, and especially Wednesday. Even though we had a couple of changes in the weather, it seems like the negative rail thing, to one degree or another, and it hadn't been as potent as Wednesday for sure, seems to have been in play a little bit. So how many minutes of post we got? Yeah, 2 minutes, but they're still in the paddock. A quirk this horse has, aside from the inside post, which I don't know, we'll get a good read. This is a good litmus test for the inside here from One Step Beyond. It was absolute inside speed. One Step Beyond shied inward at the break on June 30th. Check it out. One Step Beyond broke in on December the 14th, 11 days before Christmas. One Step Beyond broke in from the one post on November the 8th. Bottom race on the hard copy form. Well, you guys know the way the Mountain Main is configured. And if this horse breaks inward from the one post, coming across that 6 furlong chute, that could result in a hair-raising ride for this 7-pound bug. Believe me, and it would concern me just a little bit here when it comes to One Step Beyond. Number 2, Brave Words. Number 3, Brave Words, where they're 24-1. The win was turf. 0-for-7 on dirt. It seems to have some route speed. Has he ever flashed sprint speed? Yeah, a couple of times as a maiden. So it could be a pace factor. I couldn't make him part of it for too long, though. And Jeff Sook's 0-for-12 on the year, so he's a good horseman with a cold hand. Dancing King learned to run from behind the pace last time, but both of his wins are in front. He is a West Virginia bred. Don't make a big deal about the fact that he's a 2-time winner and never 2, because usually you got to post about 3 wins versus restricted company before you got any kind of an edge running never 2 versus opens. And then How About It, number 5, who I think is a big player here. How About It was actually claimed back at a $5,000 loss. So they liked that romping win from him. Did Team Tunstall, friends of mine that hooked up with Jay Bernardini. So they wanted their horse back. They took him back. And How About It didn't fire when he was reclaimed there. Maybe didn't want to route a ground. Maybe wanted to be in front. Didn't manage to do that. Not a pretty effort, though. Then over on grass, and the race was wired rather smartly. And it's tough to run from 4th, 8 lengths back at 5/8 on the turf course. So the win was going 6 on the Mountain Main for How About It. And if How About It can go up and join the pace, How About It could be a handful for this field. Frozen 4, number 6, Frozen 4 broke maiden on turf. Langley tried a couple of different things when he haltered this horse. He wanted to cut back. That didn't work. On May the 3rd, kind of a strange claim of a then 1-for-33 runner. And then next time he wanted to get over on grass because the horse broke maiden on grass. That didn't work either, despite a ground-saving trip. Still stubborn, not going to drop Frozen 4, despite the 1-for-35 record. Haltered for $4,000, yet for a 3rd straight time, goes postward for considerably more than that sum, which is a little bit puzzling to me, but these old horsemen can be a little stubborn after they invest their money at the claim box. Anti-Ant-Man, number 7, 4-1 there. Anti-Ant-Man sucked back last time between foes. Didn't really check. I think he was just out-footed at that stage. Now he is the outermost speed here, which could be an advantage given the grain of the track. I'll tell you more about that in a couple of races from now. Anti-Ant-Man was over on turf, and he's tough to read because He did run a new Beyer tops on turf, but this horse also won on dirt and was second on dirt. I don't think he's a route horse. I think 6 is probably a better fit for his pistol. And again, he's got to win in a place from 2 of those dirt tries, and we can toss out the stakes attempts. So he is not beyond the pale here by any means. And he's being bet accordingly at 7-2. Number 7, Anti-Ant-Man. You can see a little crowd there watching the horse go out onto the track. That is Terry Craig or Wilford Brimley, look-alike Paddock Blacksmith. 5 coming in from the other direction. Back in a minute after they get a chance to come through the tunnel, and Pete gives you the names in the post parade. Pete never wanted to read the names in the post parade. He considers it overkill. But the ever horseman friendly mountaineer demanded it. The horsemen just demanded it. They want to hear their names announced. So if the one horse doesn't number and tries to shoot the gap or some silliness, because he doesn't have him breaking in and shying in at the gate from the latch, is that going to put the 5 in or the 7 and control the pace? I guess it could, huh? Lord Baranoff, the 8 horse, I know he goes turf to dirt and his win was on turf, and they claimed him to get him over on the grass. But I wonder how much of the improvement was turf after that claim and how much was Don Blankenship. And he's got a couple of big back buyers and lucrative maiden special weight competition at Oaklawn Park on dirt. So I don't even think he's out of the question here, Lord Baranoff. I don't. I can see different possibilities here, guys, and I'm not feeling a bet on my part coming on. I'm really not. Because obviously, the one horse I mentioned, if he doesn't break inward too sharply and doesn't compromise himself at the gate, and the inside's okay, then he could well just make this a routine wire job. How about it? Big chance for him at 7-2. Anti-Ant-Man, he's a shot. And Lord Baranoff, I give an outside look to as well. So when I can make a case, a plausible case for 4 different horses, I got to look at the board and see where somebody's just completely mispriced it. I don't think that's what's going on here. I am a little bit surprised that Anti-Ant-Man is quite this low. I think they liked the way that he rebid last time, Anti-Ant-Man, although at that point, those 2 combatants who had fought tooth and nail right from the opening bell were on shaky legs. So I think that was largely a token late move from Anti-Ant-Man. If he's going to win this race, it's not going to be with some kind of a late move. It's going to be with a turn move. Maybe buffered out where the track could be a little bit better. But again, I, my friends, am headed to Pasadena for this race. So welcome into Seabass and to Code Brown, whose name is Jeff. So glad you could get with us, guys. Seabass said, hard to get a worse trip than Ant-Man last time. Gets outside. That's who I'm on. Nice call. A lot of folks saw it that way. Ended up 7-5 on anti-Ant-Man. Uh, I'm not so sure it was so much the trip last time as the trip tonight, as he was the outermost pace horse there. Anti-Ant-Man. I observed before the race that his move to the home stretch last time was kind of an oh by the way thing, because those two in front were punched out by that point, enabled him to rebid. But tonight, if he were going to win the race, it was going to be with this big turn move to take him to the top. And that's exactly how it played out in what was probably the better part of the track. I think there was some track bias factored into all that late money that showed up on anti-Ant-Man there. And I've said before on this show that if you can't think of a reason to bet a Cluley horse, try and invent one. But he's no longer as secret, really, as his horses do take a lot of late money, it seems like. So much better trip, yeah, tonight for anti-Ant-Man than last time. The one horse, for what it's worth, broke straight and true, did not compromise himself from the one post by ducking in under the very promising and talented 7-pound Bug Boy. I do think he gave us a good litmus read on the rail, though, and I don't think it's a good read on how the inside's playing tonight. Suspected it going into that race, but I think we've had confirmation now that the one horse went away quite that easily to anti-Ant-Man. Lower turn. Did you notice how, at least in sprint races, Arroyo seems a little bit allergic to going out to get the lead? I didn't bet the race, so I don't care either way. And I'm not sure his mount of the 5-horse. The Reclaim out of the Jaybird barn is really in crazy wild monkey wet love with wet footing. But it seems like Arroyo is just never a guy who's going to send and be up there on the lead or close thereabouts. It almost seems like he wants to do the one-size-fits-all ride and try and come from behind the pace on some of these horses. I could be wrong and maybe need to watch him closer. He's a talented jockey and he can really finish. Yeah, 7-5, scary. That money showed up on anti-Ant-Man. And what about Team Ramajama to end up co-favored? They're at 2-1, whereas the outside horse looked much likelier in that West Virginia maiden claimer at a route of ground and that off-turf race. The outside horse seemed much likelier mark of greatness to go off his chalk. Sometimes it's scary how the late doe identifies these winners, huh? Fourth race was lined up for 5 furlongs on the turf. When we flipped this one over, we got scratches. In fact, we're down to 4 here. A mere 4-horse field. 3 of these have won recently, and each of those 3 in up on the pace fashion. Alien Princess on the outside here. One of these open 75 fillies and mares. 1 of 3 lifer and did it on turf. She's not as good on dirt. Alien Princess. She's got a really quick burst out of the gate, though. So she could compromise somebody else here. She could be a spoiler, at least for the first couple of furlongs. It's possible. On the inside, 5 Minutes of Passion has been away since April the 12th. Now, normally, on the heels of a couple of hard drives, I would feel like that knocked the horse out. And maybe the horse didn't come back so hot from the last performance and needed a rest. And I'd wait for the horse to reestablish form. But it seems like the payoff on Eric Reed runners only gets better once they've been recycled for a couple of months. So you got to factor that in as well. Although I'm still not crazy about the 3 months away and off the 2 hard drives. I wonder what they did to 5 Minutes of Passion. And I don't like the one post unless it's for the horse that's going to get off the rail for that all-important far turn. 5 Minutes of Passion has won 3 times for 7,500 out of the last 4 races. So fits the 75 tag. Now, those were all non-life races. 5 Minutes of Passion really wants the lead, but is game enough and brave enough to still compete without the lead. But I'm not sure how much that's going to help her from the one post here. It could be get the lead or break or bust for 5 Minutes of Passion, correct? Number 4, Morning Boss. Morning Boss has been a really good horse over the Mountain Maine. You don't see the Mountain Maine records listed because this race was drawn up for turf. But the Morning Boss, by far the most accomplished over the Mountain Maine of all these horses. Yeah, for sure. Morning Boss is beaten better than these, too. In higher race headings is Morning Boss, and loves a wet track, too, does Morning Boss. Morning Boss has a really strong second quarter when she fires her best bullet. And if she gets the lead on you early, then that second quarter enables her to just keep opening up and put the race away. Now, it gets a little bit complicated from here. Morning Boss likes turf. It was in with better horses, at least a much better winner on turf on June the 2nd there, and was off very slowly and compromised herself. So that was a good race from Morning Boss. Now, next time, not quite as good, but again, she missed the kick. Not quite as badly as the time before, but she definitely missed the start a little bit. And that could really compromise her here if she's not back on her toes right from the jump, Morning Boss. Now, if she is on her toes, what's the reward for that? An inside trip to where maybe the track isn't so good? So I think she's a hard horse to read here, Morning Boss. I know it sounds strange when she's the most accomplished again over the mountain main, and she takes a class drop and she's in decent form, but I'm not crazy about the post position here for her. And also, the way she's been breaking would also be a concern for me with number 4, Morning Boss. Again, the most accomplished horse in the race, the best horse in the race, and a horse that drops in class too. And maybe on a short list of runners that can be outfooted at the first call and then really kick it in around that far turn and put herself back on top or thereabouts by the time they turn for home. Number 6, Fair Trade, I think is a horse that you want to look at long and hard here. Fair Trade fits the 75 for sure. Snappy win against some veterans there for 75 on May the 26th there and went right to the lead. So she's got the good speed. And you don't want to confuse 6 Furlong speed with the kind of early foot it might take to get the lead here at 5/8. But Fair Trade's been on top and wired at 5.5 and has been on top another time or two at 5.5. And Fair Trade's most recent race found her in with a towering opponent in Larimar, who's just been mopping up on these funky-ass ratings handicaps that she shouldn't even be in to begin with. Larimar. Larimar was the best horse on the grounds a couple of years back, and Larimar is still a solid $25,000 claimer. And those were rapid splits, even by 6 Furlong standards last time. So she loses no luster there, Fair Trade. And Fair Trade at least is buffered out from the inside a little bit here, whereas 5 Minutes of Passion or Morning Boss, either or both of them could suffer inside trips, which don't seem like a good thing, at least so far tonight. Got an evenly matched field here with some look-alike running styles. If you pitch Alien Princess on the obvious dirt thing, and that she prefers turf, then maybe you knock 5 Minutes of Passion for the 3 months away off the pair of hard drives, and you don't like the post position, so we cut it down to the 4 and the 6. And I don't handicap by process of elimination and black marks that I put against horses. I try to look for some merit in who's going to fire. But if you handicap the race in that simplistic manner, then perhaps it leads you to number 6, Fair Trade, who was 4-1 up there. I'm a little bit surprised at how high the price is, as Alien Princess is even money. Now, I think somebody is betting some track bias here on Alien Princess. I think that was some of the reasoning behind the 7-5 on Anti-Ant-Man, too, as Alien Princess is the widest. And you saw this pattern play out last night as the widest post won several races, and the speed that was further out from the inside won several races. So you got Alien Princess here on the far outside, arguably with the quickest burst to first call anyways. But the problem with that, the issue with that is she's not as good on dirt as she is on turf. And I don't think she is really likely to muster much of a passing gear on dirt the way that she managed on turf back on June of 2025 there, year of our Lord 2025. I understand why Alien Princess is this low at even money. This could really be an offbeat race. They could force somebody who normally wants to lead into coming around Alien Princess and actually passing somebody to win, which would be a rarity for a Morning Boss. And a never heard of thing to this point for Fair Trade. Even 5 Minutes of Passion passed a couple of opponents last time. So just a tough race to get a read on or figure out exactly how it's going to play out, who's going to position where, who's going to go to what part of the track. Right now, I do like the price on this 6 horse. I haven't completely ruled out wagering on this race, but the way I'm talking about it right now, I'm thinking maybe not so much. That is Jay Bernardini, who just walked by the camera with a turquoise, look like turquoise, T-shirt on and baseball cap. He's a walker, man. You always see him walking around, tooling around town. And he walks all over the grounds, too, in Mountaineer. He's got a car. He's a gainfully employed adult with like 55 clients and plenty of money. If you need a loan, ask Jay. But you never see him driving, never. So Kenny Neely, I know he's a big Morning Boss fan. I know he's cashed bets on Morning Boss. One of the good handicappers that we have is a regular here in the dungeon and says Morning Boss is a little bit better from just behind the pace. I think that's because she's got such a stout second quarter. She's not a good finisher, but does her work the second quarter Morning Boss once she gets up the top speed. I think the concerns with her would be some kind of an inside trip or another slowish start, another straight up slow start. Fair trade, each time that she's been beaten at the Mountaineers, she's been in with a monster. Even Kanazawa was really stout back on April the 27th. And Miss Jane Planner, who was always first or second in allowances. And most recently, the supremely accomplished and talented Larimar. So been beaten only by good horses. And I'm not advocating for her. This race kind of confuses me. I'm not in any big hurry to cut the mic and go over and bet somebody in here. Is that money on the 10 going to hold up? And I think there are two reasonings behind that. Maybe the quickest jump on this field from the far outside and also the better footing. I think that money's looking at right now, number 10. Alien Princess. Even as the odds begin to equalize a little bit here, I knew that the 6 was going to go down, was never going to stay up there at 4-1. Not the easiest of races to pinpoint value. I will leave it to you guys and wish you luck. If you trusted Morning Boss to break well after those last two in a row slow starts, then that was your winner. By far the best horse in the race, has done the most of any horse in the race, and has kept the classiest company of any horse in the race. So Morning Boss, good job by Batista to bust her out of there. And when she's on top at first call or head and head for the lead, then she's going to put the race to sleep, because that second quarter of hers is lethal. Morning Boss, and might have been an even shorter price than that had her Mountaineer record shown on dirt, which it didn't because it was a turf race from the origins there. So Morning Boss, baby, yeah, was getting out a little bit there on a left-handed stick. It's not a bad thing, though, tonight, because the track's good out there. Eddie Clouston with Morning Boss. 6-5. Is some of that unwise money on Alien Princess disappeared at the 11th hour there. I know she was a two-time winner on turf and a two-time winner on dirt, but she's way better on turf. Alien Princess, guys. Just unenthused about this card, and I'm sorry if it's showing and coming through in my commentary, but I don't want to manufacture strong opinions when I don't have them. When I do, you guys will know it loud and clear. Sitting a bit on my own bankroll tonight, too. 6 panels for the fifth race, no winners in 12 months. Most restrictive veteran condition written, huh? What a generic field. We've got 10 to the post here anyways, full field. And Belamos, I took a peek at the board. Belamos is the favorite up there on the change of jockeys over to Arroyo. Tapara is pretty good from off the pace. The problem is Belamos was too far off the pace last time. Belamos was dead last at second call, and I was a little surprised by that, because when you got past Outkissed, who was breakaway speed in there, but not a 6-furlong horse, there were a lot of sluggish horses in there, and I thought Belamos would have better position. Closers ran 1-2, so opportunity was there, but Belamos was just so sluggish. And I like Belamos' start before last because cost basis controlled the pace and was a short price and looked really good and ran fast in victory. And I'm thinking, okay, Belamos, that was just his second start out of the year. He's just getting tuned up. So he's ready to win this kind of a race, except he didn't last time, Belamos. So if you want to give him that one, spot him that one, then he's not too difficult to like here, Belamos. I would prefer a post, not quite so close to the inside, but you never know with a horse that comes from a little bit behind or maybe a lot behind, what path he's going to occupy. Tapping Royalty on the inside, just to touch on them all. This is a former Franklin Smith Lynn Cutno horse, and usually those guys are pretty sharp. And whatever they pass on to the next dude doesn't do a whole lot. It's been years since Tapping Royalty won also, and that was Christmas time of 2023. Ho, ho, ho. First Citizen, I think, was claimed for like $25,000 in Ohio a couple of years back, and was a really good horse in Ohio. It's made almost $300,000, but long in the tooth now, and just doesn't run much anymore. Was all the way down to $3,200 last time, and only beat one. Team Leyendecker, maybe the favorite here over Belamos when the smoke clears, right? Team Leyendecker has kept company with a lot of West Virginia breds, but restricted or not, those are better horses. Storm and Rocket, Out of Sense, Abundant Energy, even Heroes, man, with like 22, 25 wins and all that speed. Connected Dots was like 3 for 3 here after that one. I think 4 Farrier coming up from Southern West Virginia. And those were higher conditions, 4 lifers, higher prices on those optional claimers, allowance optional. So that's stiffer competition for Team Leyendecker. And last time for the 75, I liked Tricky Tracky to win it because of the outlook going in. There was no speed in the race whatsoever. And Tricky Tracky figured to capitalize on that, which he did to a T, because those fractions were kind of soft and Tricky Tracky was unchallenged, which was not a good setup for Team Leyendecker. So Team Leyendecker, I thought, actually ran pretty well to come on a little bit to be third. A big key to victory here for Team Leyendecker. First, he's got to be okay on the class drop. And you never know with these barns. They squeeze and hold on to what they have. And sometimes after an in-the-money performance or two, when they drop again in price all the way to the bottom, it's not a good sign. But if you try to get inside the connections' heads a little bit here, Team Leyendecker, they got to be sick at looking at the likes of out of sense and abundant energy, and that thing, zealous storm of Jamie Pools that he won the start of the West Virginia bred starter with last night. And they're going to be saying no moss to that kind of West Virginia bred competition. Heroes man lurking in the weeds as well. So they want to come outside the restricted ranks. 75 didn't do it. So I guess it's time to come down to $4,000 and capitalize on this condition. With Team Leyendecker. Team Leyendecker did win within the time frame, but that was against West Virginia bred, so it doesn't count. But they want the softest possible condition. That's my thinking on the psychology of this placement. And a big key, I think, is going to be to not drop too far back down the backstretch. Because once you get past El Maro, who's not unlikely to get the lead here, got a bunch of sluggish horses. They're going to be trying to outdo one another to get good position in here. So Artification says, do you think when Batista shifted to the outside in the stretch and forcing the 6 to inside broke his momentum and made the difference? No, I don't. Good sir, with all due respect, that race was signed, sealed, and delivered when Morning Boss hit the brake, unlike the last couple of times. When Morning Boss is not out-footed to the first call with that stout second quarter she's got to put it to bed. And the 6 horse wasn't as quick, quite as quick as a couple of those 5/8 specialists. So she's going to make a hero move out in the better part of the track, but she's not really sincere about making up that kind of ground and running by anybody. So she was doomed to hang no matter what part of the track she was in from that point to the finish. Is my take on the race. Good sir, Mr. Artification. That's just my synopsis, my recap of the race we just watched. Number 6, Law of the Jungle. I actually looked at a little bit here. Hey, you know what we're going to do tonight? My wife is off duty, RN at nearby medical center. And we're big on horror movies here in the Patterson abode. So we're going to rent Obsession, which gets like 90-something ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. I guess this dude gives this chick some kind of potion or some kind of spell to make her become infatuated with him. And I guess it backfires in the worst possible way. And it sounds kind of like a cliche-ridden plot that we've watched before. But I guess it's so well executed that it's actually not just ironic or preachy, which you might expect with a plot line like that, but actually terrifying, I read. So we're going to watch it tonight. Yeah, I did give a look to number 6, Law of the Jungle here, because this guy's one of his wins on the year was with a horse that had been off a couple of months, and Law of the Jungle fits that pattern. And he sometimes improves horses first time out of his barn, although you can't read that from his first time with trainer stat on Formulator. Has worked out well since his last race. It's kind of a positive there for Law of the Jungle. And this is the kind of spot with somebody sluggish horses that just occasional route speed, like Law of the Jungle shows, could actually put him in good stead down the backstretch here. It really could. And he drops down to Mountaineer's lowest condition. And this is the kind of spot in which you've got to pay a lot of attention to the invaders. So I can make case for number 6, Law of the Jungle. I really can. My odds banner. My odds. Where are my odds? Yeah, there we go. Morning line puzzlers. Abuelo Paps 3-1 will be higher. I don't even have to look over the tote board to tell you that's a misconceived price point on the Mountaineer morning line, because that was the worst race of all time. And Abuelo Paps had the wake-up call there for an obscure outfit. And he's only a 4-time winner out of 64 tries. So there's no way in the world he's going to be as low as 3-1 here, up from 3,200 in a race that saw the speeds back up. So it benefited his running style, his sluggish running style. And the winner was just nothing, nobody, nothing on paper. So I'm going to go over now. Drum roll, please, and check out what the price point is on Abuelo Paps. I guarantee it's going to be higher than 3-1. I'm surprised he's as low as 5-1. I'll bet you he goes up from 5-1. He's got to, correct? Etritat was part of the pace last time, but that was his first start in like a year and a half. And that pace was non-existent. The pace was so slow that Osprey the deep closer was actually part of the lead there. I think he was in front, wasn't he, Osprey? So give no credit to Etchertad for being alert there off the bench. So my man David Shabel says, happy to see Mike Begon back riding tonight. I'm thinking he was the jock hospitalized after a spill. After that gate thing, after the ambulance delay, I think that was a gate guy that got hurt. And I hope he's okay. At least that's what I heard. Kenny Neely says, yeah, Mark's recaps are very helpful and quite frankly, my favorite part. They were my favorite part of doing televised analysis for 25 years from Mountaineer 2, Kenny. The takeaways were my favorite part by far. I liked it a lot more than a pre-race. What's for dinner? Somebody says, my wife is making a couple of steaks for me and Little Bear. And with kind of an offbeat side dish, but she's scrounging through the cupboard in case we got to shell out for a new motor, for a new engine. We're going to scrounge through the cupboards and cook what we got on hand. You know what I mean? You guys feel me on that? And so it's going to make butter noodles to go with the steaks. I like butter noodles with like anything, you know, even a steak. You don't even have to cut the steak up in pieces and make it like steak over noodles. What is that dish called? Stroganoff. She made me stroganoff a couple of times, and the sauce was just so awful. I hope she can't hear me upstairs here. I'm pretty sure she can't because the kitchen's right above. I think it's right above where I sit here in my finished basement. And you guys have open invitations to visit me here too. Really, I'm serious. And so we kind of have co-jocks here, and then we do Balamos with the jock change. As Arroyo picks up more and more live calls for Jaybird and the team Leyendecker. Balamos had the right history, man. He won an allowance race last year with a 71 buyer, and he's not too old. He is only 5. He's got the requisite wet track win. But I can tell you, whereas Balamos fumbled the ball completely last time on opportunity, knocked, and he fumbled it early by being so strangely sluggish. Team Leyendecker had the race flow against him completely. How about Law of the Jungle at 8-1? And I was correct about Abuelo Paps, but not the extent I might have expected, because when I highlight a puzzling morning line price point, I expect it to be way different than what it's listed. And he's as low as 6-1 there, which is totally unexpected for me. I still think some of that money is going to disappear. They could be betting the jock change here just a little bit from Montserrat, who's from the far reaches of the jock's room, over to Bracho. I sound like a broken record. Not sure I'm feeling a wager coming on here either, guys. And you know we got a ratings handicap coming up. An optional ratings handicap where you either go for the tag or you have to fit certain parameters, I think from 20 to 30 or 20 to 40, I think. And the ratings handicap numbers, and why cheap horses like this that are either slumping or have been running cheap. Why in the world these horses need some kind of a safe haven to not get claimed is beyond me. It just mystifies me what even the need for a race like this might be. I get these people covet their property and don't want to lose their horses at the claim box, but when you got something that hasn't won and start after starter hasn't won in a year or has gone completely off form, it's the nature of the game. You got to shop a claiming price in which the horse can turn its fortunes around. That's what the game is structured on. Not safe havens where the horses can be entered not to lose. I hate the structure of tonight's seventh race. Doesn't mean I won't bet it, and we will talk about it a lot more. I'm going to throw the numbers up right now. I think they're going to surprise you a little bit what those ratings handicap numbers look like. And a race predicated on ratings handicap numbers. And there they are for tonight's seventh race. Offbeat, strangely written. Ratings handicap starter. So Timmy ZZ7P, something like that, says couldn't go near the chalk. Went with the young jock Humberto. You know what? I actually bet a couple of bucks on the winner myself. Not a lot, not a lot, but it was pretty clear before the race that I like the horse's chances for the reasons that I stated. You got to pay extra attention in the lowest conditions to horses that ship in because they benefit from the race header. And also, this trainer, one of his winners this year, was a horse that had been off a couple of months with an Ohio set of past performances. The horse had a good work. And I think I also mentioned that the race was so lacking in early acceleration that even a route speed horse with fresh legs would not be unlikely to go out there and get the lead versus that field. So, if anything, I was a little disappointed in the price. It was just a tiny action bet that I put on the horse, but I did like his chances, and I laid that out in the pre-race. I think I was pretty clear about that. But was expected to get better than 5-1, or else I wouldn't have bet anything on the horse, to be completely honest about it, guys. And now we come to a desultory. That's a racetrack word, race. I used to read it in the old Tom Ainsley handicapping books. When I was a kid, my dad first took me to the races when I was 8 years old, my mom and dad. I'm going to do a video and tell a story, some of these stories. And about my lost decade of the 80s, I promised to do a video about that. And some other non-racing videos. I'm almost afraid to tell you guys what the content of those might be, because I think you guys might laugh me out of my own dungeon. I might, before the night's over, tell you what I'm thinking about doing. And of course, I'm going to keep doing this because this is my bread and butter, breaking races down and just old school analysis between races, you know? But anyways, sent away when I found out you could get handicapping books, COD, and not pay for them. I started sending away for the Ainsley books, and what a good teacher for a fledgling 12-year-old handicapper, because he taught a well-rounded, comprehensive approach. And a lot of his logic still applies, a lot of his psychology and his basic teachings to handicapping today. And he used to use the word in his books, desultory, he would use. Actually, Ainsley was a pen name. Wasn't even really a handicapper. He was assigned to learn how to handicap and write a book, a how-to book, and became one of the greatest handicapping authors ever, Tom Ainsley. And I'm so glad that he was my first handicapping teacher. And he used to use the word desultory. And he had a flair for dramatic phrasing, too. The guy could write. I can remember when he was in theory and practice of handicapping, and then the handicapper's handbook, he broke a race down and in real dramatic fashion, and a synopsis of one of the horses, and the past performances were printed right on the page of this big coffee table book, which I had forever. Wish I still had it. Man, I wish I still had it. And he said, chances were good. She would get nothing in the Bowie mud. Just real dramatic, man. Just dramatic shit that just sent chills down my spine when I'm sitting there reading that stuff, you know? And many members of my family figured that at that stage my life was ruined. And maybe they were right. I don't know. So this is a desultory field. If you hear your kids use that word, they're lost. They are dyed-in-the-wool born degenerates. I never too going a mile for the bottom claiming price, close to bottom anyways, $4,000. Not a race I'm real enthused about, but welcome in, Timmy, by the way. I'm not sure I've welcomed you formally to the dungeon. The Complete Handicapper by Ainsley, I think that was one of them. You keep promising, keep listening. I am running out of years. Are you talking about what my non-racing content's going to be? Lyrics, or do you mean the video I promised about my lost decade of the 80s when I handicap for guys whose last names end with vowels? And I will throw some non-racing stuff in that video too. Is that what you're talking about, my man? Or do you want to hear my non-racing idea, what I might do? I'll just come out with it. You know what I'm going to do, seriously? Since it is in the public domain, and since Little Bear and I are such vampire fans, aficionados, I think I'm going to do an audio version of Dracula and maybe attempt to affect the Count's voice, which I've been practicing a little bit. Is that insane? Is that totally fucking nuts for me to do? People who aren't interested can just stick to the racing content, which I am supposedly a professional at. I'm not a professional audiobook reciter, but I'm going to give it a crack since it's in the public domain. I'm going to do it on a series of videos. Put up a cool picture of the count and stuff like that. Is that insane, guys? Let me know, please. And be gentle. Because when it comes to audiobooks, it's going to be my first time. My first recitation. Number 6, classic Alfie. I can remember my friend Jim Arnick and I, when we went to the movies, we had our folks drop us at the movies one night when I was, I think, 9 and he was 12. And for some reason, he wanted to go see freaking Alfie. And I didn't know what it was about some freaking gigolo. I didn't want to watch that stuff when I'm 9 years old. Whatever was playing, though, old school theater with the drapes and a big balcony, we were going to go to. And Michael Caine as Alfie. What's it all about, Alfie? Which is a good song. Anyways, classic Alfie. I listed on my price points, misconceived price points, as he's going to be a lot lower. And I'm going to throw those price points up right now. I don't like this race a lot. I'd be digging more deeply, more quickly into my synopsis of this race. Yeah, it was right about Abuelo Paps, but not extremely. So he was 6-1. Classic Alfie, a 7-1 morning line. No. He's going to be a lot lower than that. I just off that 58 buyer from 2 starts ago that found him 3 to the good at Louisiana Downs. And plus, he looks to get a lone lead here and shows a competitive loss photo finish in a route race at Del Mar on his hard copy form. The Knox, the flip side, I think is pretty obvious too. Classic Alfie had a voided claim, the dreaded voided claim, which means the horse didn't come back so well. In Phoenix on March the 19th. And the last 4 times this guy's been the favorite, he has been found wanting. And that's not a good thing, guys. That's not a good thing at all. Plus, as much as Juan Pablo tends to move his recent acquisitions up, no mean feat to improve on. Robertino Diodoro, hard guy to improve on. So I can give you pros and cons when it comes to classic Alfie. State of Attack on the inside. Smart win on synthetics. He gets claim from that on a huge class drop with a bad dirt efforts due to being outclassed, running greenly, or perhaps he just doesn't like dirt. I really wouldn't count him out on dirt off that May the 12th race. That's any other than, not even a 2-lifer like tonight's is, plus a big class drop. Now, we did regress last time on turf, which he proved that he liked in his previous pair of outings, but he was uncovered and maybe launching a premature move there, State of Attack on July the 8th. Goes to Renzo Diaz. My man Renzo will try to save some ground, which may not be a good thing on tonight's grain from the one post. Zero to post, they're on the track, huh? Number 2, Silent Breeze, this talented bug jock. I know this is not Hal, though. This is his dad, right? No, this is the father, I think. Father of the talented Humberto. Another Juan Pablo acquisition who was 4th last time and beaten just 5 the start before. Low buyers, though. And the last time he ran a route, it looks like he got a soft lead, which may not be in the cards here and still folded. Reverend Jack, good old Reverend Jack is 3-1 and taking support. Reverend Jack, the 4-time winner, is a West Virginia, but he can still go never 2 and try to win this spot for the 3rd freaking time. But he's had a lot of cracks to win the 2-life for the 3rd time, 2-life claiming, and has not pulled it off. The last time he won a route of ground, it was nominators in 12 months. Maybe those veterans were, I don't know if they were even any better than these horses. I really don't. And he was up, he was part of it. And then he hung at the moment of truth and then comes back to close at 5.5 after Hero's Man had raced that field off its collective feet. Heroes Man, a good horse, a good speed horse, a 20 or 25 time winner. So to be second to him is a feather in Reverend Jack's cap, to be dropped down to 4,000 never twos. But he was basically clunking up for second there, past a lot of spent horses who were raced again off their collective feet by the front running winner, Heroes Man. So he's a shot, no better than a shot. And I don't think he's any kind of a cinch here. Briarcliff, what in the world is Ramjeet running two maidens at him now against winners? She does this. Briarcliff, I think, is supposed to be the rabbit part. And it worked last time when he was in against winners as a maiden and helped to set the stage with that interior move for his off-pace stablemate, Semper Anarchus. I don't think Super Justified the 7 can quite play the part of Semper Anarchus tonight, do you, guys? And 9-2, I'm surprised the price is quite this high afloat on Classic Alfie. I was sure he wouldn't be 7-1. But I was likewise convinced that he'd probably be 3-1 and maybe even a little bit lower than that. We'll see. I cannot envision myself deciding to make even a token action bet on this race. So what do you guys think about maybe me doing a couple of audio books that people can access in the dungeon? And I'm going to do books that are in the public domain, and in keeping with the dark theme of the dungeon, horror novels. First up would probably be Bram Stoker's Dracula. See how I said that real cool? Kind of a little hint there. And I might do a half decent Count Dracula voice, guys. Good luck in this race. So welcome in Hockey 17. Do I know you by another name, dude? Either way, you were welcome here in the dungeon, my man. And I guess you hit it, had the right horses, and the DQ screws it all. Very sorry to hear that. Hate when that happens. We've got some disgruntled players in the dungeon that I think want to drag the Mountaineer stewards right down into the depths of the dark dank dungeon and apply maybe the thumb screws? Or is that too mild? Do we need some more severe punishment there? The three definitely came over and made contact a couple of times. Technically, letter of the law, probably a foul. A little bit unusual, though, to see a disqualified winner for that kind of an infraction at that stage of a two-turn race. Just a little bit. But whatever the case, sorry about you. You were Reverend Jack Backers. I think it was 3-1 as Global Phenom. I think this was the only way Langley was ever going to win a race with Global Phenom. Gets his number put up there. These races are just hard on the eyes because of the negative rail bias and so many horses that lose momentum when they duck inside and gain momentum when they move out and lose it again when they move back down inside. It'll make you seasick watching these bad fields strung out at a distance of ground that it seems like we're watching the Bataan Death March or something. War and Peace, we could read while we're watching some of these route races, some of these bad route races tonight. Don't set it and warn you guys. Given Renzo Diaz's penchant for hugging the rail, that probably nullified state of attack there because the rail's no good. And Diaz ain't coming off it from the one post. I got news for you. And indeed, that voided claim and those times that he went as the beaten chalk and flipping from Robertino, Diodoro, definitely did not bode well for classic Alfie. And somebody said, yeah, that's a great Burt Bacharach song. I think I read where that might be his favorite song. Burt Bacharach's favorite song. So my man says, lived in Steubenville, Ohio for 20 years and went to Mountaineer many, many times. Appreciated all you did over the years. Thank you, my good man. Wish you'd have stopped in the studio. It's good to make your acquaintance now. My wife works in Weirton across the river from Steubenville at Weirton Medical Center. Steubenville, I don't get over there as often as I do down to Weirton, kind of the Twin Cities on opposite sides of the mighty Ohio. Steubenville, for one thing, for me anyways, Dean Martin's hometown, is not so easy to find your way around or navigate behind the wheel if you're not familiar with the town. I find it kind of difficult to get where I'm going in Steubenville. But I'm an old fart, so whatever. And now we come to the ignominious ratings starter race. As if for some reason, horses like Atlantic Firestone, who hasn't won since the year of our Lord 2023, early 2023, and Priority Lane, who hasn't won in at least his last 24 starts, and Blue Cheese Olive, who has missed the ticket badly, trifecta in his last 3 starts. As if these horses need some kind of a safe haven to be protected from claim rather than their connections forced to show their hand and put these horses in for some kind of a price. To me, a race like this just makes no sense. But whatever the case, I put the ratings numbers up for you guys, didn't I? The Equibase ratings numbers. And surprisingly enough, the only horse in for a tag, and I guess this is not surprising, he's got to go for the tag because it didn't fit the parameters of the Equibase ratings. He's not between 20 and 40. He's 54, Blue Cheese Olive. Somebody explain to me why Blue Cheese Olive is 54 on the Equibase scale. And I just ripped on this system on a video you guys should check out. Einstein now writes race conditions. Check that out before you do my upcoming Dracula read, okay? And yeah, there are the Equibase numbers. Blue Cheese Olive, 54. Buck and Dreamer, 20 points lower. And Buck and Dreamer's got a resounding win this year with a snappy Mean Joe Green, 75 by our Speed Fig. Are you kidding me? Now, Blue Cheese Olive takes a big drop here. Has never been in this cheap. The rail's not good, and he's been away from the races, but this race is notably lacking in 5.5 furlong quickness. And Blue Cheese Olive is on his toes. He's got a history of that kind of speed. Check that wire job out the last time he had fresh legs on January the 5th. That plus the fact that he's got the highest number in here. And he's the only horse not eligible for the conditions of the Equibase window for the ratings. I think that might make him live here. Blue cheese olive. Number 2, Buck and Dreamer. I'm sorry, number 4, Buck and Dreamer is 3-2. That was a ridiculously high morning line on him. Even with these scratches, he was going to go way lower. Now, he's been claimed from a master horseman, Dave Treehorn. So know that before you back Buck and Dreamer. On the flip side, this is a rare opportunity for a former route horse to maybe even get the lead at 5.5. Normally, he'd be outquicked in a race this short. Buck and Dreamer. Now, Buck and Dreamer last year was death to $15,000 claimers and then dropped down to 12.5. Kind of an ominous drop like they wanted to lose him. And he struggled to win at 30 cents on the dollar last June. I didn't like it. It was ominous. He went off form and needed a rest and a drop to 4,000 to come back and win. His subsequent pair of outings, not as good as his return win. I know it looks like he was hooked last time, but he crept about a length in front around the far turn last start. And the horse that rejoined him on the outside is not that fast a line, so I'm not sure I grade him that highly for his July 6th race. And I'm a little skeptical of a horse claim from the likes of Dave Treehorn. On the outside, another recent claim, Priority Lane, was halted from Jaybird by Juan Pablo Silva. And the horse did improve, but not a lot. He got the lead, still loses by 5 at a funky-ass ratings handicap that had no speed. He was the speed. This horse has been looking for a running style and a correct distance for a long time, and that's one reason that he hasn't won. And a goodly number of starts, Priority Lane. Now, there's not a lot of speed in here. He's out where the track's good. And Silva did at least wake him up for some speed last time, correct? Number 5, Enlighten. I don't understand this horse being this low at 7-2. I know he's got a wet track win. I know what that looks like, but he's a route horse who much prefers turf. And he didn't run at all in his 2 turf tries here, both times his favorite. And they're dropping him as fast as they can. First claim for 40, then down to 30, then 15 and 20, then 17.5, and then 75 for Enlighten. No takers last time for 75 on a horse that won for 20 2 starts before that. Almost like there's some issues here, huh? With Enlighten. I really can't endorse him in here. We watched the 3rd Batman movie, and not a good one, last night with Val Kilmer as Batman. Just didn't fit the role with his laconic delivery. Michael Keaton just seized intensity. And Christian Bale, my favorite Batman by far. But it just didn't work with Val Kilmer. And it was too garish and just childish and cartoonish and ridiculous. Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face. The best part about that movie is an anecdote that I read. Jim Carrey said he much admired Tommy Lee Jones and just saw him in a restaurant during the filming. Went over to say hi and maybe give him a bottle of wine. And I asked Tommy Lee Jones, how come you won't even speak to me on set, Mr. Jones? At which point Tommy Lee Jones, and keep in mind, he was playing a cartoonish character called Two-Face in his own right and made up in garish makeup for this movie, looked straight at Jim Carrey and said, sir, I cannot endorse your buffoonery. Tommy Lee says to Jim Carrey, I can't endorse your buffoonery. Does that mean Jim Carrey stayed in character as the Riddler during the filming, like at the commissary at lunch and stuff like that? Is that what that means? Well, Tommy Lee Jones does not sound like a friendly guy to have a beer with, does he? The late Tommy Lee Jones. Good sir, I cannot endorse your buffoonery. Hey, dude, he's hired to be a buffoon. That's the whole idea of Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Number 6, Atlantic Firestorm, talented horse with obvious infirmities and issues. Only 3 starts in 2025. Just one time to the post in 2024. All these long gaps here. Do they have him going halfway sound now? For him to run back in just 2 weeks and his third start in, what about 5 weeks? Atlantic Firestorm? He was run down from behind last time, and not by a good horse, Dan's code. Atlantic Firestorm. He's talented, though. And is probably going to have the better part of the track trying to make a far turn move. And those have been devastating last couple of nights from out there. And he is a 7-2. Atlantic Firestorm. It's a tough read and helps make this a tough race. To get a handle on his Buck and Dreamer assumes 8-5 favoritism. They like his record, they like his route strength, and they see him as perhaps an early leader at a distance that he would not normally be fast enough to obtain early command at. And you know what? If the rail were A-OK, I would be tempted a little bit by Blue Cheese Olive, who is maybe the horse with a monopoly on the short sprint quickness here, and a horse that fired lights out the last time he had fresh legs. And the only horse in the race not eligible for the conditioned part of this, the ratings handicap numbers. I like the price on Atlantic Firestorm. If I've confused you guys, it's because I'm not a tout. I do kind of a free flow thing and jump from horse to horse. And by the time I'm done, you guys are going to know how I see a race for sure. A little bit tempted by the 6, but there's some other scenarios here that could play out. And whoever gets the lead in here could be double dangerous. To Atlantic Firestorm. Good sir, I cannot in all conscience endorse your buffoonery. So Priority Lane posts first win of the season there and finds a likely spot in an offbeat, very funky, ill-conceived ratings based race there. Priority Lane benefited big time at the draw on the far outside where the track is better. And I think that benefited Priority Lane to blow to the lead around that far turn. At that point, Negron did a couple of things. I'm not sure he did them on purpose, probably because he likes to ride the other guy's horse a little bit too. That definitely benefited Priority Lane. First thing he does is goes left-handed and drifts out to make Gomez, who had a full head of steam after being surprisingly close to the pace on the cutback horse. Coming out of that turn, makes Gomez duck to his inside, at which point he flips back to the right hand and comes down and doesn't really tighten Gomez up, but comes back down towards the inside on Priority Lane there. It could have been simply a case of the left hand caused the horse to duck out and the right hand caused the horse to get back in on Priority Lane. But the Negron is very competitive and pushes the envelope, very on the edge the way that he rides there, and did a couple of things which I think helped ensure narrow victory on Priority Lane after the post position, propelled him to the lead. And kind of a strange race to rate, a strange field to gauge. Moving forward, I'm not too sure what to make of this race, except that if Enlightened doesn't drop down inside Priority Lane, he's probably going to sustain that move and win it. And I knew Buck and Dreamer was going to be a bad idea going in. And I think I made that really clear, guys. I didn't bet the race. Eighth race, our last one of the evening, a mixed condition, never four fillies and mares, or anomalous in 2026. There are 6 panels for this one. And put up a race flow note. Pace collapse likely with quick quitters from shorter sprints signed on. Bashful Daisy on the inside, who was part of the lead last time in a really quick race at 4.5, and had the lead in the previous 5 outings, each at 4.5 furlongs. So they want this horse in front pretty clearly. Bashful Daisy. I'm not sure how much run Team Ramsey's going to get from this horse procured from Big Boy Anthony Ferrier. I can tell you this, Pan Am Racing usually brings him here from Will Rogers Downs and stuff. They have been the kiss of death for Tina Ramsey and have dragged her record down. This is a different situation, though, with a horse up from Charlestown. I don't like the feel of it, and I don't see 6 furlongs out of Bashful Daisy either. Number 6, Small Town Smoke Show, is another horse that vied for the lead last time in a really quick 5 furlong race won by a Now horse who's just a monster back on track, who's now 3 in a row by humongous margins. And Small Town Smoke Show with a lot of 4.5s on the page there. And 6 furlongs might be an issue in the best of times, but Small Town Smoke Show faces the opposing firepower of Bashful Daisy early. And plus, this guy's horses, I've observed a couple of times, no disrespect to him, but his runners just move backwards when the gate opens, it seems like. Kent Knudsen. Little Breezy worked too hard to win last time at prohibitive odds, 1-2, with a big drop-off in the Buyers. I don't think that hard drive did her condition any good at all. She's outside the other speeds here, which is a good thing. She's going to have to pass and rate and change tactics from her last one, which she would have been able to do a few starts back, but off that most recent, I really can't endorse her. I just like Tommy Lee Jones can't endorse Jim Carrey's buffoonery. Sassy Maxine is taking play out there. Sassy Maxine didn't fire last time in the slop at Charlestown. Comes back here and gets Arroyo back, and the one sprint at Mountaineer resulted in a good second to a way better horse than these. For Sassy Maxine. Has a good post out there. Has a little bit of speed, but can come from behind too, so I think she's a contender. Wedding March, just another speed to throw on the fire here that I don't like at all. And Photo Finish pulls in on the outside and gets a good post. But her win, and I look a lot at their wins, both of her wins were on soft leads, speed-friendly setups at 2 turns there for Photo Finish. So she's got a fire on the drop here to start with, and she's got to be able to pass somebody. Photo Finish. It was Barrios, not Gomez, on the 5-horse. I knew that, guys. My bad. And I think if he had stayed the course and fought over the 7-horse theory, probably wins it. Given a normal grain, wouldn't have been a bad move. Although you lose momentum a lot of times when you drop inside a leader that's still fresh. But it's almost like in basketball. I never played much defense. I was a whale of a shooter. And they teach you to always fight over the pick. Don't ever go under the pick, because once you do that, you're beaten. And your man's got an open jumper, and you're far from him. I think that race riding can sometimes be like that. Sometimes the jocks are better off to fight over the pick and come around a horse, even a horse that's getting out a little bit, instead of lose momentum and duck back inside. But the difference is tonight, it's no good down in there at all. And the horse ended up right down dead on the outer rail. Not a good thing. And it probably cost that horse a 5-1 win, too. Aposta Salad Ronda. This trainer's underrated and won a race already tonight. And this horse showed signs of coming around last time in a higher claimer. And that was an unusual race, and that you had some strong horses up there in the engine. A 6-furlong horse, a little bit crazy, who can pass foes. Actually got the lead there because it was such a sluggish affair in terms of early speed, which made it very difficult for Aposta Salad Ronda to close. And she was gaining ground late, which kind of impresses me. She's 0 for 5 in the mud and slop, but she was a tough beat second to a key ticket on January the 22nd, Wick of Wisdom and Tall Girl. I used to cash bets on Tall Girl during that time frame. And she hit her peak at the pre-stretch, which means she might be able to launch a pretty good rally. At 6 panels here, Aposta Salad Ronda. So I like her chances. My players here, my contenders, in this utterly speed-loaded race, and seems to whisper rally last time, I think because they were slowing up so much in the end. I don't like her as much as I do Aposta Salad Ronda. And I give a chance also to Sassy Maxine. So by your leave, guys, I am going to exit the dungeon and leave it to your good judgment and good graces. Thanks very much for hooking up with me in here. I hope that you come to love this place as much as I do. And remember, you're always welcome in the dungeon, a place in which we will share our deepest, darkest thoughts and handicap some horses as well. Mark Patterson out.